Good morning, everybody, and welcome to 1 Million Cubs Fayetteville. I hope you're having a fantastic day today. And I really appreciate you guys coming out, supporting local business and entrepreneurship in our community. With that being said, we have a fantastic presenter today. We have Mark Tegtmeier with Trailmerge. He's going to come and tell us a little bit about his business. So I hope you grab yourself a cup of coffee and enjoy. Mark, it's all yours.
Great. Hey, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and start screen sharing. All right. It's great to be here with y'all. One of the nice things about being virtual is I can join y'all from down the road a little bit here in Atlanta. So super great to be here and get to meet y'all. To give you a little background on myself. I got into my current field of user experience design, kind of an interesting route. So I was self-taught. I had worked at a branding agency up in Oregon, really fell in love with design kind of as a larger career area, and started getting exposure to the startup community in the area, which had a decent tech focus, and really enjoyed the innovation aspect of it, and also just the business strategy behind starting these new scalable businesses. So that eventually led into this career in user experience design. I've been blessed to have some really great opportunities along the way in terms of just other opportunities alongside that career path. So I was a 1 Million Cups organizer in Colorado Springs a few years ago, and got to instruct incoming UX designers who were changing careers at a school called General Assembly here in Atlanta. So one of the biggest highlights has been for me mentorship. So that has looked like mentoring new designers, and it's also looked like mentoring entrepreneurs. So because of that, I decided to start a business where that could be a larger part of what I do on a day-to-day basis. That kind of takes the form of helping entrepreneurs who are in the software as a service space to be empowered with product and design expertise so that they can develop their products. They can have the support from a design point of view, especially early on in the product, because it's something that's differentiating. It's something that's definitely needed in the market where it's becoming more and more crowded every day. So if you're not super familiar with software as a service, basically it's software that is on a subscription basis. So if you think about some of the tools that we use on a day-to-day basis, Zoom being one of them, Slack, Asana, any software platform that is subscription-based, either monthly or annual payments typically. And typically it's within a B2B context. So there are some unique metrics that SaaS startups are looking at. And in particular, some of the main pain points that we've heard coming from a design point of view is we've heard SaaS startups talking more and more about product-led growth. So in other words, instead of staffing a large sales team or staffing a large support team, they really want the product to drive their growth, their retention, all the key metrics that they're looking at. So some of the ways that factors into just kind of day-to-day operations is they're looking for self-service onboarding. So in other words, somebody comes onto the website, they sign up for the product. You know, if you've signed up for something like Asana, there's nobody who is, hand-holding you throughout the process. You're getting onboarded. The platform itself is kind of explaining to you how to get started. They're looking for improved time to value. So in that case, it's not something that is taking a lot of effort to really get the initial value out of that product. There might be more value that you get by investing more time, more energy and input and things like that into the software platform. CRM is a really good example of that, but are there some things that we can do upfront to help new users see that this is a valuable tool that they want to continue using? Of course, churn prevention, retention is super important. If you're a subscription-based software company, you want to see those renewals. And of course, deeper adoption leads to that retention. So what we do is we partner with these SaaS startups. A lot of times they are not ready to hire a full-time designer on their staff. So we come in a fractional way with a design team. So it's typically 2 designers that we'll put on the team. So it could be for 40 hours a month, 80 hours a month. It could be a full 160 hours a month, and we scale. So we want to make that easy. That's a big part of what we're trying to accomplish, is really have that longevity of knowledge that we can work alongside them. So we're not like a typical agency that's kind of in and out in maybe a 3-month project. We really are there as that kind of long-term design partner that's really integrated into the team. So we're typically using their Slack, the company's Slack instance on there, engaging with multiple team members throughout the process. And we are very SaaS focused. So we've had one customer recently who came to us and was really attracted to Trailmerge, specifically because we understand the business model of SaaS. We understand some of the unique challenges and the unique thought process. It is quite a bit different than thinking about designing for e-commerce or designing for just small business websites, or designing for, say, social media or some sort of a B2C platform. It's a little bit different mindset. The business model is different. The considerations of being in that startup environment are quite a bit different than if we were working in, say, an enterprise environment, working a large corporate for internal tools. So get into a little bit of our journey so far. I started the company back in April of 2020. We started with myself and one other designer working on a single client called Loan Shout. This was a mortgage broker who decided to get into the software space and help the communication process as a loan is being initiated and closed, so that all the parties are informed to the deal. So he came in as a non-technical founder. He had not had experience in the software space. His area of expertise is in the mortgage field. So we came in to basically help him through that process, think through how a loan officer would use the platform, what kind of functionality it needed, what kind of features it needed, and then we came up with fully mocked up screens, so then we could pass those off to a developer, work alongside the developer to get his platform built efficiently. I went full-time with Trailmerge back in February of this year. I had been working full-time as a director of UX at a startup here in the Atlanta area called UserIQ. They decided to become our second client, and we have been adding on additional clients on this kind of more retainer basis since then. And we are currently at 5 clients and a design team of 5 designers, including myself, plus a operations and marketing manager who's been awesome, helping us in so many ways with all the things that go into running a business. So this is our current team. We are a fully distributed team. So the only state that actually has 2 people represented is here in Georgia, but we are pretty well spread out across the country. So it's a little bit, I think we're all getting used to it. But there's some interesting things about, whenever we bring in somebody as a W-2 employee, registering in that state with the Department of Revenue, Department of Labor, the Secretary of State. So that has been definitely part of the process, but we now are at 4 W-2s, including myself, in 4 different states. Some of the things that are coming up next, we have been working on solidifying our processes and our team for scale. So that's looked a lot like some of the operational stuff, just how we work alongside clients and budget out our time as designers so that we are really giving each client, even though it's on a fractional basis, giving each client a lot of attention, making them feel like we are integrated into the team, even though it is less hours per week than a full-time designer that they would hire on would look like. We've been doing webinars in partnership with different startup communities around the country. So for example, I'll be doing a webinar with an accelerator in Denver next week. We've gotten the privilege to do things like that in Sacramento, Colorado Springs as well. So hoping to expand that and expand relationships with startup communities, particularly in the tech space. And we've been starting to work on new partnerships, kind of deeper partnerships with development shops. So we do not do the actual software development. We don't do the coding. We're very design focused. So we've been building those relationships with those development teams so that we can complement each other in serving the SaaS market. We've been working on a new website. That's kind of a new strategy, is thinking through SEO. That is something that we're learning about, just the digital marketing strategies, especially in the time of COVID, where the typical networking that I would be doing is a little bit more limited, at least in a face-to-face type environment. And with our mission towards providing opportunities, providing growth, we are hoping to start an internship sometime beginning of next year, where we bring in designers, have them work on interesting projects and help them to grow in their design skill sets. As far as website, we've been putting out some content related to design, and particularly in the software as a service space. So this is a really good article to start with, just to give a little bit of a concept of why it's important to start with design early on. One of the other things that we're doing is SaaS design audits. So these are basically, we're evaluating different folks' applications, and we're going through very detailed, evaluating them against user experience design best practices and helping to prioritize things to work on next. And with that, I'll open up for any questions that y'all have.
Well, I'll jump off. What are you doing? What is your process now for attracting new clients?
So right now it's been very LinkedIn heavy. It's been a lot of reaching out to really other individuals who are serving the software as a service space. So it could be development shops. That's one partnership that we've been trying to focus on a little bit more recently. But we've also been in communication with, one example would be a company in New York that we've been talking with, who helps founders to seek out investment and helps them to organize basically their list of investors that they're trying to talk to, helps them to identify who's investing in, say, the industry that they are serving. So, and there's virtual CFOs who are focused on SaaS. There's, various different service providers who are focused on these SaaS startups that we're hoping to build relationships with. So we've been trying to do that kind of reach out via LinkedIn primarily. It's been a lot of just trying to connect with folks that I've been connected with over the last several years, and asking for introductions, asking for who people might know. So that's really how it's been so far. We're trying to figure out how we kind of scale that marketing approach as well.
So if I'm understanding your service correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because that's what I'm trying to get a grasp on. I have an idea for an app to do something to make my life easier, or to create a business or whatever. You try to figure out what it is I'm trying to create, and then you handle the actual creation of and network and get the right people involved and coordinate all that until I have in my hand what I need. Is that correct?
Yeah, so our focus is really on the design portion. So I would think of it in terms of, say you're building a skyscraper downtown. You're not going to just have builders come in and say, okay, go ahead and start build the skyscraper. You're going to bring in an architect before that who's going to think through how a building is going to be used, what the aesthetics of that building are going to look like, different functions, accessibility, things like that. So we're essentially taking that role within the software space. So we're essentially laying the blueprints and then working alongside the developers to actually build the product. So we don't do the development. I wouldn't see us as like a general contractor who's bringing in those different pieces. However, we do have those dev team relationships. So if you don't currently have one, that is something that we can make those introductions. But actually, the initial client who came in just kind of more idea stage has actually been a little bit less typical of a client for us in terms of our overall client base. Typically, it's been more companies who have maybe been in business for 1 to 5 years. They have a development team on staff, and they're just missing that design component. Or in one case, we have a company that we're helping out who has one designer who's on W2, but we're helping them out to, one, provide mentorship to their internal designer. And in addition to that, we are kind of additional hands on deck to help them design new features and things like that.
So I could see a lot of businesses that have been in business for a while that are used to operating in the face-to-face real world, and now they need to learn how to take that business virtual or create an app to help my customers get what they need, that kind of thing. So if I am hearing you correctly, then your job is to step in, help me design how to make that happen, and then either you can help us or I have to go find a person who actually does the nuts and bolts. Is that now accurate?
Yeah. So so in this example with the mortgage broker, for example, we're essentially providing we do this diagram called user flows. So basically we're thinking about how is all the information in the application organized? How does somebody go through the process of, in this case, it's updating their clients or creating a custom dashboard for each individual home buyer and real estate agent. So there are these different processes within the application that you go through that we're basically mapping those out and how somebody does them. And then we're designing the visuals of the screen. So that's the nuts and bolts. That's kind of our bread and butter that we take care of. And then in his case, we did refer one of our development team partners, and he's been working with them. They have a single developer fully dedicated to his project, and they're working on a full-time basis, building out the product. We're designing kind of the next thing to be developed out. So that's really kind of the relationship that works with the development team, is we're just trying to stay kind of that next step ahead of their development team.
Hey, Mark. Hey, I got a question. Are you currently working with any companies that you're rebranding their apps, or is that a process that you do as well?
We do rebrand some or initial brand. That's not really our area of focus.
Okay.
We're not so much on the marketing design side of things.
Okay.
Redesign, though, I would encompass a redesign as, yes, there could be colors and fonts and logo and stuff like that in maybe a reskin of an application, and we have definitely done that. But I would say actually redesign is probably a few layers deeper than that, where we're actually looking at the usability of the platform and helping them to maybe restructure some of the actual layout and organization of information, navigation, things like that. So it's easier to use. That's really the end goal.
Okay, Mark. The reason I asked that is because coming out of COVID, there's a lot of discussion about adaptation and redesign and using adaptation. And that's the reason I'm asking that is, a lot of companies now are redesigning. And that's based on where we are today and based on what the trends look like going in the future. So that may be something to look at. And you probably are looking at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Mark, I have a couple of questions. So what about your revenue streams? I mean, explain those. I mean, calls, what do your revenue streams look like?
Yeah, so our primary revenue stream is retainer with the SaaS startups that we're working with. So within our current client base, we have anywhere, and it really kind of comes down to hours. So we do anywhere between right now 40 hours for our smallest client per month to 160 hours to our largest client per month. So those are that is recurring revenue. The one other revenue stream that we have is we do bulk. We call them bulk hourly or like prepaid hour projects. So that would be more of just a short-term project, maybe a couple week to a month-long project that we come in and help out with. And then, of course, our design audits. But our design audits are a little bit more so kind of that initial introduction. So where we want the design audits to eventually go is, we're evaluating the application. Yes, we're charging for those audits. They're pretty detailed, maybe 20 page document. But that's eventually leading into the conversation of, we can actually help you to address some of the usability issues that your platform has right now. Right. So really the recurring revenue is the main thing.
So I also had an opportunity to visit your website. I love the blogs, by the way. But you did mention you're going to redesign the website, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. I think so. And maybe incorporate a few more of the testimonials. I noticed you've got the gentleman, Sean Grapevine. Here it says broker, but I know when on your slide it was something different. So
yeah, speaking of rebrands, yeah. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
That's right. Yeah. So the redesign of the website is really focused on just making it more robust in terms of our messaging. So one of the ideas that we have right now is, right now it's really just a single page plus a blog. So we're going to be building out services pages that get a little bit more into depth of different situations that founders are in. So, one situation is that early stage, I just have an idea founder. Another situation is this, we've been in business 1 to 2 years. We need help to just make this process more streamlined for our users. So one example there is we had a client come to us and they said, we as the founders are having to spend a lot of time just getting our users up to speed, getting them set up on the platform, teaching them how to use the tool. And their goal was really, we need to make this more usable so that somebody can just sign up on our website, get launched into the application and just start using it. Where the platform itself is easy enough to pick up, intuitive enough where they weren't needing to get themselves or any sort of support team involved in just the learning process of the platform.
I think I have to agree with Lori. I was looking at your webpage and trying to get, feel for all the different things that services you could provide. And I did see the broker, forgot what it's called now, broker.
Okay.
broker, and I saw that aspect, but I think it sounds like you offer a wider variety of services than that. And it would be good if I was looking for a company or came across you to be able to see all the different things. So I think where you said you run to a build out of different services would come in very handy, because it sounds like you can do a lot of things for a lot of people.
Right.
And I think right now, just looking at your webpage, it kind of leads you down one avenue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So what has been your biggest challenge since you've gotten started?
I would say that has changed about every month. So I think if I'm taking a snapshot of right now, it's as a company, getting to the point where financially right now we're in a good spot. We're month over month, but if it's planning for if a client rolls off, how do we make the business or at least get it to the point where from a recurring revenue standpoint it doesn't significantly affect that going to the red or having to let a designer go, that kind of a thing, because everything is really month to month. It's very hours based. So in that sense, I think it's just kind of getting that additional traction. So we've been able to scale through kind of mainly relationship based networks and things like that. But I think we need to kind of get to that next level of growth where we are able to expand past our current relational reach.
Is that where you see your greatest challenge in the future, or do you see that as something else?
I think probably the challenge after that is going to be just from an operational standpoint. So when we moved from it, we had a pretty quick. It was really just in a 2-week span where we had 2 larger clients come on, and we had 3 new designers come on to serve those clients. So we definitely felt that from an operational perspective, because before that it was myself and one other designer, and we were having to adjust how do we really effectively do designer onboarding and client onboarding, so that as we're bringing on new designers, bringing on new clients, it's more process based rather than we just have an understanding because we've been working together for a year and a half, myself and the other designer. So I think that will be the next probably challenge is, once we do scale up the marketing, then there's going to be the scaling up of the team to support that marketing and just ensuring the same level of quality that we've been able to accomplish so far continues.
Well, along that same vein, let's kind of change the question a little bit. Are there certain industries that you feel you work right now connect better with just because of the designers that you have on staff, that kind of thing? And are there any industries that you would like to jump into that you really haven't jumped into yet?
Yeah, that's a great question. If I look at our current client base, at least a couple of them are SaaS companies that have other SaaS companies as their primary customers. So, one example is UserIQ, the company that I was working at prior to focusing full-time on Trailmerge. They are a customer success platform. So basically they work with account managers, or it's a tool for account managers within software as a service startups or larger software as a service companies. And, so in that case, that knowledge that we have of SaaS companies translates directly to their customers as well, and serving their customers. So that's a really nice space to play in, just because we're super familiar with that industry. but at the same time, mortgage is something that we weren't really familiar with how the loan process worked, other than just I bought a house or two. So I think that's part of the process as a designer is learning how to learn quickly, learning how to really learn an industry and get the key bits of knowledge that we need. But I really enjoy kind of that aspect, working with customers who are small businesses or customers who are startups. That's where we want to continue to grow.
So Mark, what about your competition? Who is your competition?
So our biggest competitor right now, because I could say there's other UX design agencies out there. There are several. But when it comes to deals that we've been talking with, prospective customers that we've been talking with, I don't think I've seen once where they're comparing us against another UX agency. What I do see them comparing us against is, do we hire Trailmerge or do we hire a full-time designer? So in a sense, that W2 designers are kind of our biggest competition. So we're one of the things there is we're trying to really effectively communicate why we're a good choice. When I think probably part of that has to do with just the SaaS specific expertise and the fact that they're going to get multiple people, that it can be a lower commitment than a full-time employee. But I would definitely say that is our kind of largest competitor, even though it's not another agency similar to ourselves.
I'll take the last question, Mark. What can this community do for you? How can we help you?
Thank you. I think the main thing that I've been hoping to do as I've been talking with 1 Million Cups communities is really connect with kind of the broader entrepreneurial ecosystem. So I'm looking kind of primarily for introductions to really potential partners, folks who are serving other software startups. So it could be development shops. It could be other service providers who are really focused in on that tech industry. But then of course a big one is doing these partnerships with local tech incubators or accelerators and things like that. So if y'all know anybody who's kind of in that world, I'd love to get connected, and then of course we definitely reach out. Let's stay connected on LinkedIn or reach out to. We'd love to hear about y'all startups that y'all are working on. So.
Well, thank you so much for coming and talking with us today. We really appreciate it, Mark. Would love to invite you to come back at some point in time and let us know how things are going. Again, it's been a pleasure. You guys, I hope you have a fantastic day. I hope you will join us again next week. We have a great presenter coming up next week. We have Smart Fox Technologies. I hope to see you guys then. Have a fantastic Wednesday. See you next week.